Jamie has become a good friend. She is like her personality is infectious and very similar to mine in that she is hardcore, hard driving and doesn't take any stuff, any fluff. We met because we joined a group called We Should All Be Millionaires together, and then we afterwards joined an accountability group, and we've been meeting every week for the last, what is it, Jamie, like six months,
No,
maybe more.
April.
Eight,
We started in
oh, a
April. It's almost a
year.
year.
We've been meeting for every week for the last year, and we've met up in person two times since then, in June and then again in January, I think.
Yeah, August and then January. Yeah.
August and January. Okay. And Jamie and I are here to talk about radical rest. What is radical rest? When I was talking to someone and they were telling me about the way that they rest, it was the traditional method of rest. Jamie and I were just talking on Friday, and she told me her form of radical rest. So I'm going to allow Jamie to introduce herself, and then we'll move forward.
Yeah, thank you, Shalece. So my name's Jamie Starosky, and I am a business and intimacy coach. And when Shalece and I were talking the other day, I look at Shalece and I'm like, she's adventurous, she's out there traveling, so she's resting in all different kinds of ways. And then when she asked me what's radical rest to me, and I'm like, well, rest can be anything. It could be a walk, it could be, playing with your dog, or it could be sex. So when I share with my clients, they're normally in a place of a sexless marriage and they're trying to get back into having an intimate relationship with their partner. And I shared with a client this weekend that even just being intimate, which could be, sitting on the couch, could be rest. Or having sex could be rest because you're releasing all of that energy and all of the stress that you have. So it was a great conversation because we went around the world with what could radical rest be. So yeah.
Jamie, it is hilarious. So I should have said this from the beginning, not safe for work. And that's why we're going live so early. This is not safe for work. We are going to be talking adult topics this morning because well, I've known this about Jamie since the first time we met, that she was
Right.
an intimacy coach. And
Lift in my chair.
I wanted to make sure that we all understood that you can rest in different ways. And for me, I always interchange rest with joy, with pleasure, with so on.
Yes.
And I try to steer clear of the word pleasure so much because they mistake that I am going to talk about the release that sex can bring. And that's not it. When I talk about pleasure, I talk about releasing endorphins from that, even on my phone. When I'm on my phone and I'm scrolling through this album that I've created that says pleasure, and it's for me, my kids, my husband, my
Yeah.
family, I think about
Yeah.
that rests my brain from all this hard driving, entrepreneurial stuff that we're doing on a
Yes.
daily basis. When I take a break, I like to get that pleasure, whether it's meditating for a minute and tapping into my parasympathetic nervous system, or whether it is taking a walk, like you said. It's cold here though, Jamie.
It is cold here this morning. Way too cold for this time of year for me. So
So now that I've made that disclaimer, I'm about 5 minutes too late. I want to go ahead and get into um, radical rest for me. Like Jamie said, a lot of times I like to radically rest by climbing a mountain. There's something about this adrenaline that goes all the way up and then comes down, and I'm at this state where I'm in my head, trying to calm myself down. And many times I do manage to calm myself down. The reason why here's how this radical rest thing came up for me. There's another friend, Cicely Braithwaite, who talks about self-care. I actually have her book
oh,
right here.
I wrote it
And
down today. I
yes, did
did.
you?
Yes, yes, it popped up for me. Yes.
It's 101 self-care activities for women. And I keep it right here next to my on my desk. And when she told me about self-care, the first thing that came to my mind was radical self-care. She never said radical self-care, but that's what entered my mind because it's self-care in a way that's outside of the norm. My clients that I talk to many times, they don't have, they're like, give me some ideas for self-care because what we do, Jamie, much like you, we're high driving. Self-care is I just ticked off what was on my list. I'm happy. That made me happy.
Right, right. Then, yeah, the stress is gone. Yeah, I
The
ticked
stress
it
is
off.
gone.
It's good. Yes,
I'm resting.
exactly.
I'm resting.
Yes.
That's it.
Yeah.
But not necessarily so. And so radical came into play with me when I talked about this Pomodoro method that I use and I tweaked it 5 minutes for Shalece and how I rest. So tell me, I want the people to hear more about what you do, Jamie, and how that fuels women so that they can go on and make their business better.
Yeah, so my experiences actually came from a marriage where out of 17 years of being married, 10 of that was sexless. And so as I yeah,
Sheesh.
so defining sexless means it's around once a month, right? So it's not completely, but once a month. And when I started down this path of coaching and business coaching, I wanted to help women in this space because I believe it's so important to have a sex life that you enjoy, that you want to have.
Mhm.
So, Shalise, you and I could even have it could be a complete kind of like our conversation now, right?
Yeah.
Where it could be completely different. It may be okay for you to have it once a month. Then it's not, that's your choice, but I want it to be about your choice as opposed to I wish we were having it more, or he wants it too much, or I want it too much and he
Okay.
doesn't. Whatever that is for you, it could be 5 times a week, it could be once a month. And so as I look at that and I started to kind of look back at my own life, it's like, when was I having the best sex of my life?
Mhm.
Well, it happens to be right now, but right.
Of
It's
course.
of course, right? It's really about I find myself using the strengths I have in the business world and
Mhm.
applying them to the bedroom.
Okay, tell me about that. So this is the piece that I wanted to talk about. So I want to hear all about how I interchange rest and pleasure a lot
Mhm.
because for me, rest is pleasure. When I first met my husband, I've said this before. He would say, like, what's your hobby? Like naps, sleep. What do you mean? Like that, I love to sleep, yoga, sleep, and reading, right? That's it. Those
Mhm.
are my hobbies. Tell me a little bit more about how you help women tap into that part of them
Mhm.
that makes them feel better, more rested, more able to take on this high driving entrepreneurial type of business.
Right. So that's it's really a great place because women don't realize when they're really successful in the business world, or just in their everyday business life. And that could be, I own my own business or I'm in the corporate world,
Okay,
whatever
got
that
it.
may be. Right.
Got
So
it.
as opposed to it's only entrepreneurs, no.
Mhm.
Um, and they feel very strong and confident, and they stand up in front of boardrooms, right? They're
Mm.
running the show. And why do they do that? Why do they have those skills? So we tap into what allows them to be in front of a boardroom and managing a room of 10 people and running companies, but they get home and they can't ask for what they want.
Mm.
They're putting proposals together, right? Like, I need $1 million to do this project, but they can't go home and ask their partner, I want to have sex. Like, how do you do that? Right. A lot of times it's about mindset. And you'll find that women aren't confident, even though they're asking for $1 million. They get home and it's like, but he's not going to like what I look like. He's not going to like what
Um,
I'm wearing. And it's like, wait a minute, you just stood up and asked for $1 million. Right.
But many
So,
times that's different. Like that's where we're comfortable. That's the easy piece,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
So I'm curious to understand more about how can I, like, where does where does rest and relaxation come into play such that I can get in the energy space so that I can ask for what I need, so that I can have even more confidence when I stand
Mm,
up in the
mm.
boardroom.
So that's a great conversation. So when you look at rest, um, it could be, and I shared this with somebody the other day that have you ever thought about saying, hey, to your partner, hey, I need more of your time and let's go have sex.
Right, with that
So
time.
with
With
that
that
time,
time.
look at
Okay.
that, right? So if your love language, as an example, is time or service
Yeah.
or whatever those are, if you take that conversation and you're like, hey, I'm feeling a little bit lonely, or like we haven't had enough time to talk, it's more about, hey, let's talk and go have sex, as
Right.
opposed to
Oh, you
let's
gotta get me
talk.
in. Wait a minute. People are gonna be like, what the heck? What is Shalece? What exactly is okay? So just that we're clear. When we're talking, the reason why I wanted to have Jamie on was because to do a live with Jamie is because when we're talking about radical rest, somehow it came up that she likes power tools. And I was like, yes. I was like, yes, Jamie, I like to either lie in a hammock, something that
Mm,
restores and rejuvenates me. And
mm-hmm.
sometimes it is lying in a hammock, sometimes it is riding my bike,
Oh,
sometimes it is running. Not often, I don't really care for running, but kickboxing
yeah.
3 times a week, like clockwork. When I'm in Costa Rica, I'm kickboxing. And so we came to this point on Friday where we talked about radical rest and how I believe it was, just jog my memory, how like sex was a way to rest your brain and get that
Yeah.
same, get that the same benefit that you would get from relaxing or doing an activity or a high driving activity.
Yeah. So what we were talking about was what do I do for rest? And my response is, especially at this time of year, I'm going to go be in my garden, right? So I'm going to walk barefooted. I'm going to go talk to the plants, make sure my herbs are growing, right? Or I might go in and use power tools. I love power tools. I build furniture. I do that. And when you think about those two things, they're completely different. And then I said, or I'm going to go have sex because, right? If you think about that, when you're going from the garden, it's resting the brain, it's relaxing. Or when I'm using power tools, it's mainly because I like to build things, but it takes my mind off of everything else that's going on.
Yeah.
And then when I'm with my partner, it's the same thing. I'm able to, like the world goes away. I mean, to the best of your ability, right? If the kids are at home, that's one thing, but still, I'm not worried about when I'm with him and we're being intimate. I'm not worried about what's happening at work. I'm not
Mm,
worried about my business.
mm,
I'm with my partner and it allows my brain to
mm.
rest. And if things go well, it's um, all of the chemicals that go through your brain
Mhm.
when you're done.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that just fall asleep, right? Because look at all of a sudden you're like, ah, life is
So,
good,
Jamie,
right?
okay, I'm thinking about this in terms of, well, as you talked, what came up for me is restoration, rejuvenation.
Yes.
These are the things that I talk about. Meditation,
Yeah.
a form of when ladies cut, when people, humans, not just ladies. I talk a lot
Right.
about ladies,
Right. Right.
color. And when we
Yes.
draw or when we write, we're immersed in this state, and your
Yes.
brain creates this clearing out process. It's like this glymphatic clearing out process, which also happens when you focus and when you're in one state and you're really present in the bedroom. And
Yes.
I thought, well, what better way to talk about radical rest than
Oh,
talk to
yeah.
Jamie?
Yeah. There we
Because
go.
it is a form of meditation if you're really immersed in that space. So I wonder what questions are going to crop up after this. Pay attention to the chat. Pay attention to the chats.
Okay.
I can't wait to get some responses. And any last things that you want to leave with the audience?
Yes. So people should not feel nervous about talking about it or asking questions. So in the chat, I promise we'll be discreet. So people ask questions. I
Or DM, or
or
feel
DM
free to
me
DM if
for
you have
sure.
questions, because I don't want to keep, when it's a live, you want to get in and get out. So I didn't want to keep them too long, but I'm sure you could answer questions in terms of how do I get it like prepared? How do I get myself into a
Yeah.
restful state? Or with how do I develop enough spaciousness so that I can ask for what I need?
Yes, yes. So, and I think it's great, Shalise. So, anybody that wants to, because I think that's really specific too, right? Because that has to do with an individual's mindset around that space and around the bedroom. So, when people are asking questions, certainly DM. I'm a very discreet person. I want to make sure that I take care of people and anybody. I'm open to whatever sexual orientations out there. So I'm
How do
good.
you how would one get in touch with you? Hopefully this will be posted on yours
Yes.
and my live. It'll stream on both, even though I have it streaming on my channels. But you can repost or tag me or something. We'll figure it out
Okay.
because yeah.
Yeah. We'll just
But how will they get in touch with you?
yeah. So DM me certainly because you're gonna post this on Facebook, right? So
Yeah, it's
I know
streaming
that
on
both of
Facebook
us
now. Yeah.
live in Facebook. So they can reach out to me directly in, message me
Yeah.
there. And then I also have the ability on my website, I'll put that out there. So I'll
Yeah.
drop that into the
Yeah.
comments and
Yeah.
then they can schedule just a chemistry call with me so that we can talk
Awesome.
through and see if they have any interest. So yeah.
So we radical resting in here, y'all. So we are climbing mountains, both
Yes.
physically and metaphorically.
Yes.
we
Yes.
are we are resting in hammocks. We are um taking walks, taking breathers. You know, I believe in that 5 minutes of pleasure, like where you pause your workday, turn
Yes.
everything off, and just go inside. And that's why I keep my friend's book right here. She has exercises that's like 5 minutes or less. Let's get you some self-care. And
Yeah.
that really helps me. So Jamie, thank you for going live
Thank
with
you.
me this early morning,
Early
since
morning.
you're an hour ahead of me. And we gonna answer questions after this live is over. And I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, great.